Hello and welcome to our weekly open social media initiative. I am Sherry Nuraini, your host, and I'm also CEO of excuse me, Captive Touch, which sponsors these weekly workshops. This week, I am honored to have Kenneth Manesse as our guest speaker, and he's going to talk about personal success and profitability. And you might think, why in a social media weekly workshop I'm covering a subject like that? And basically the motivation is that my goal with these workshops is to help. And I think at this time of year, the best way I can help business owners is by making a connection between them and someone who knows what strategies to take to be both personally and professionally successful. So I switched the screen to Ken. Ken, thank you very much for being our guest. I'm delighted that you're here. And before I give the floor to Ken and ask my first question, I'm going to give a little introduction about Ken. For over 25 years, Ken has worked with CEOs, executive managers, and entrepreneurs, and he has helped them realize personal success and profitability such that they can earn more than $1 million, which is the small percentage of business owners, which makes about 5% of business owners only make over $1 million. Ken is the founder and director of 3-Dimensional Life, and through his company, he helps people discover and develop the purpose of their life, work, and money. So Ken, I'm going to start our discussion with a question, and the question is, why is it that you're not a rock star?
Well, first of all, thank you, Sherry. And that question I need to answer because what happened was I've, like everybody else, went to high school. And when I went to high school, I did like everybody else did. I tried to figure out how I was going to fit in. And one of the things that I realized was I was just a somebody in a sea of humanity. And what soon became relevant to me was that I didn't have what everybody else had, and that was popularity and notoriety. So I had to look around and find out who were the popular people. Now, one of the things that I gravitated to was rock stars. So what I did was I came up with a plan. I figured, hey, these guys are getting all the girls, and not only that, they're getting all of the attention. So what I decided to do was do the thing that I felt like I could do, and that was get a band started, grow my hair long, and become a rock star. So that way, at least when I was in high school, I would have some attention and notoriety. So I did just that. Well, it took to my junior year until I was actually able to put the band together. But here's what I did. What I did was I put the band together and I said actually market. And one of the ways that we market was to and we're going to be one of the featured bands. And not only that, but it was going to be about 70 miles away. One of the things that we know in marketing is you always want to test. So I have never played in a band before, and our band had never played in front of anybody. So we thought, you know what? Why don't we test it? So sure enough, we did just that. We got that party started out there about 70 miles away from that high school. And the night that the concert was actually playing, we were the main line. We had a couple other bands. And I guess our marketing worked because we had over hundreds of kids there. And maybe it was due to the fact that we put on the flyers there was 6 kegs of beer there. But needless to say, we had a ton of kids there. And here's what happened. As the crowd started to grow, our band was the last band. And again, I had never played in front of anybody. And so I decided, you know what? I got to make this happen. I can do this. I'm going to make it happen. So one of my idols was Jimmy Page of Led Zeppelin. I had a Gibson Les Paul. I had strung it down low. I jumped on the stage. I waited for the count for our drummer, and sure enough, we plowed through our first song. Well, to my amazement, the whole crowd was going wild. And if you know, and you've been in any rock concert, you've got the people going like this, and sure enough, everybody, all I could see was this ton of people going like this, and I thought, for sure, this is my calling. I'm going to be a rock star. We finished the first set. I jump off stage. All of my friends come running over, and they go, "Did you see us? Did you see us? We were going like this." I said, "Of course I saw you. The whole crowd was going like this." They said, "Yeah, we know, but we're trying to tell you, Ken, your zipper's down." I played the whole first set with my zipper down. So that was my rock star story, and the reality is that I decided I wasn't going to be a rock star. So now I might tell you that story in jest, but the truth is that all of us in some way want to be successful, and for some of us it happened in high school. Well, I want to let you know that here at Three Dimensional Life, we actually created an app to help you be successful. And what I'm going to ask you to do is, during this time, you can actually open another browser, or if you're on Twitter or on Google+, you can go to hashtag join the 5, which is the number 5, join the 5, or you can go to Sherry's hashtag, which is hashtag OpenSM, and you can download a free app. Now, you might be saying, I don't have a smartphone. Well, here's the reality is, for this app, you don't need a smartphone. If you go there and look for our little logo, Three Dimensional Life, there's actually 2 gifts there, but I want you to take the first gift, and the first gift is the app. And what I want you to do is download that, and if you have time to print it, or if you don't, just open it up so that you can see what I'm talking about. And the reason why I say that is this. What I want to do is, I want you to take away from this time together a huge aha. To go, well, that was great, that was some information. What I want you to do is take this information and apply it to your life. So if you go do that now, join the 5 or open SM, you can download that. You can see on that page, there's a gift for you, which we'll talk about at the end of this. But there's also as you scroll down the page, you'll see a little Three-Dimensional Life icon. Just click on that, and it's going to take you to that app. So why do we need a success app? Well, let me kind of share with you what it is that ends up happening in our lives. And what ends up happening in our lives is we are all bombarded with TMI. Now, you might not know this, Sherry, but the reality is that TMI can actually kill you. And I'm talking about too much information. Mm-hmm. And right now we live in a time where there's a ton of information. You can get information at any time, anywhere, and literally search for anything you want to know. But what you don't know is that that information can actually, too much information can actually kill you. And there's a TED Talk that Dr. Jim Olds did from George Mason University, and you will see what he talks about this, what he calls cognitive overload. It's really what's happening to a lot of business owners and to a lot of people that keeps them from being successful. So if you actually look and trace or follow the hashtag, what you're going to find is there's actually a link to that video you can watch later where Dr. George Olds actually talks about why it is that TMI can kill you and what's happening with cognitive load. The reason why I bring that up and the reason why I talk about this app is because I want you to have success in your life and business. But what I know from business owners is something that happens to all of us. Let me tell you real quick what does happen to all of us. All of us, as we get this information, there's 3 things that actually have the information. And the first thing that we want to have, that the information that we receive, is we want it encoded. But here's the problem. Your brain is only able to take in about 7 pieces of information. So think about that. Your brain is only able to take in and store about 7 pieces of information. Now, if you're constantly searching and looking at new things and looking at new ways to grow your business, and if you're
Sorry,
on social media,
seven pieces of information per instance, minute, day.
very, very good. Every time you hear something new, of that information, you're only able to take in about 7 pieces of it. But here's the problem. The problem is this. When that information comes in, it bumps something else. The 3 steps to actually remembering anything is first encoding, and then you have to actually, once you have it encoded, you've got to have to be able to store it, and then once you store it, you got to be able to retrieve it. Well, if you're constantly as a business owner or as just someone constantly getting new information, looking for the newest, greatest thing, what you're doing is you're actually causing yourself to work in reverse. And one of the things that I told you I was going to share on this, and one of the things that I'm going to do is, well, I'm actually going to do a couple things, but one of the things is I'm going to talk about what Malcolm Gladwell talked about in his book to help you be successful. And secondly, I'm going to say something that's probably very controversial. I mean, let's face it. What does social media do but be controversial? I'm going to be a little controversial. I'm going to share you with something that literally is going to, for some people, maybe want to uncircle me or who knows what, but there is truth behind what I say, and I'm going to back it up. Okay.
We love talking about controversial stuff here, so no worries.
Very good. Okay, so if you have your success app, what I did, I help people during any time that they talk or listen to a webinar, a seminar, or even a hangout, take that information and be able to hold it. Because remember, only 7 pieces, and a lot of that stuff gets bumped, especially if you're doing a lot of searching. So if you take that app and you look at it, on the left-hand side, there are just a couple dots with some lines there. That app stands for 1, aha moment. The A, obviously, you have your aha moment. I want you to record an aha moment you have. And then what we're going to do with that app is we're going to plan the steps, which is another P, and then the last P, what we're going to do is prioritize the actions. So the app stands for aha moment, plan the steps, prioritize the action. Now, I might be going into great detail about this, but there's a reason why. And here's the reason why. The first thing that you need to know about being successful or being an entrepreneur that can join the 5% is this first secret. And I'm going to share it with you, and I want you to write it down. Are you ready?
Yes.
So the first secret and the very first thing that you need to know about business and being successful is this. If it's not in writing, it doesn't exist. I'll say it again. I want you to write that. If it's not in writing, it doesn't exist. Now, I want to share a story with you. I was out working with a company. I got a telephone call from a friend, and he said, "Hey, Ken, I know we haven't talked in a while, but I need your help." And I said, "Sure, what's going on?" And he goes, "This is really important. Where are you?" And I said, "Well, I'm actually on a project right now." And he goes, "I'll come to you. Where are you?" Well, obviously, this got my attention, so I shared where he was, and sure enough, in about 45 minutes, he showed up. And he said, "Ken, I need your help." I said, "What's going on?" He goes, "You know, I started my business a couple of years ago." Well, let me tell you what's happened. Just today, I received a notice to cease and desist my business. As you know, my business has a lot of regulatory, a lot of governing bodies, and here's what happened. They came in today and red tagged my business and told me if I do not get my business up and running and get all of these violations cleared up within 20 days, they were going to not only shut him down, pull his license. Well, obviously they got his attention, and he showed me the list. As I started looking through the list, I thought, you know what? I don't know what to do. There's just too many violations. There's too many things. Maybe you need to close down your company. He said, "Ken, you don't understand. I've invested all my money into it, my family. I've borrowed money from my family. I've got to make this work. Can you help me?" And I said, "Well, let me come by your office and take a look at it." So long story short, I came there, and we came to an agreement that I would actually work on his business and try to help him get through these violations. And what we agreed upon was this. if I was to help him get his business up and running, past the violations, he was going to give me 30% of his business. Not a bad deal.
Wow.
So sure enough, we went to work. But prior to going to work, one of the things that is the first thing that obviously we talked about is if it's not in writing, it doesn't exist. I said, well, I'll start working, but I want to meet with your corporate attorneys and I want it in writing. So sure enough, we met with his corporate attorneys and did just that. We pinned it all together. And as I sat at the corporate office, I started signing the document and I sent it over to him and he looked at it and he goes, you know what, there's a problem here. This is not right. Handed it back to the corporate attorney, goes, can you fix it so I can sign it? The corporate attorney said, not a problem. I'm going to go ahead and fix that and I'll send it to you, you can sign it. So we left the office, I went back to work. Sure enough, I got his business up and running and got all the violations cleared. And not only that, was helping him get his business profitable and successful. Well, by the time that our agreement had ended, I said, hey, listen, you know, I want to make sure that we're up to snuff on this. So I understand that part of my work, there's compensation and a bonus, so on and so forth. And so I said, I would like that, and I'd like also to start talking about how we can work together. Well, Ken, we're not going to work together. And I was shocked. I said, well, why not? And he goes, well, the truth is that you're not going to be a part of this business. We've decided to go something else. We appreciate your work. We're going to write you a check, and that's it. And I said, well, that might be fine, but the reality is I'm going to own 30%. And he said, well, Ken, that's not right either, because I never signed the document.
Wow.
So the first rule is if it's not in writing, it doesn't exist. And in business, I don't care what it is that you're planning on doing. Starting a business with somebody else, or even if you're even marketing your business, the first rule, the first secret is this: if it's not in writing, it doesn't exist. Now, for so many people, I know that that might not be that big of a deal. Is it really that important? Well, Sherry, you and I talked about something that I was going to do. And at the end of this, I'm going to share what the top 3% of wage earners do. And that is, they do something different than the rest of us. And what they do is going to help you see, and as I go through this, it's going to help become even clearer why it is that the first secret is, if it's not in writing, it doesn't exist. Now, I want you to think about that just in your life. If somebody tells you something important, what do? You get something out and you start writing it down, right? If they want to give you a telephone number or an address or an email or something like that, you write it down. Well, I can't tell you how many businesses that I have either gone into or owners that I've talked to, and the very first thing I ask is, let me see your business plan. Yeah, it goes a little silent. And what do they say? Well, I just haven't had time. Or if they do have a business plan, they're not really sure where it is, and they're not really even using it. Well, let me tell you something, and I'll give you an aha moment. If you're going into business and you're just starting your business, or you're just planning on starting it, you do not need a business plan. Now, that's not the controversial thing I'm going to say. I'm going to say something else controversial, but I'm going to say that to you because here's why. A business plan, and I know because I used to actually write them for businesses, is not for you. Let me say that again. That business plan is not for you. What is a business plan for? A business plan is for investors to look at to see if this business is profitable or viable, to see if they're going to invest in it. That's why a business plan is not what you need. But what you do need, and what you do have to put in writing, is a strategic marketing plan if you're starting out in business. I can't tell you how important that is, and I can't tell you how many times I've asked somebody to see their marketing plan, and it falls on deaf ears. I'll get that to you. I'll email it. Well, don't feel so bad, because here is what happened in my life that literally caused me to start thinking differently, especially about this idea of the first secret, which is if it's not in writing, it doesn't exist. And I can tell you from personal experience and from all the things that I've done with businesses that if there is not some document of their policies and procedures or their plan, then it does not exist. So What's the second secret? Well, the second secret.
I just wanted to say something. One of our viewers,
Sure.
Suzanne Bota, she said she's agreeing with you, and she said she recently learned this the hard way. So she is saying you're providing good information. I thought you might want some feedback.
Yeah. Well, thank you. And you know what? I can tell you personally what that means. Now, here's the second secret. Okay, you ready? The second secret is plan the work, work the plan. I know it doesn't sound like anything, but let me tell you what's going on here. As I shared with you, one of the things that I decided to do in my business and in my life when I was struggling was ask for help. And how I asked for help was I hired a business coach. And let me tell you why I hired a business coach. See, I had a great business idea. And not only was it a great idea, I knew that I would be profitable. Matter of fact, I had gone to Toshiba, and they liked the idea so much that they said, yes, we see that this could be integrated into this product, and this could work great with it. So they were on board. But here was the problem. I struggled with business for over a year, and I could not figure out how to really make it work. So I did the one thing that most business owners finally get to. And I'm talking about the business owners that are in distress, that are discouraged, and most by this time are in debt. I raised my hand and I asked for help. And how I asked for help was this. I looked around, and then a number of years ago on the New York Times bestsellers, there was this book called E-Myth. And it was written by Michael Gerber. And so I thought, you know what? I need this kind of help. He had a coaching program. So I picked up the phone and I gave him a call. I said, Michael, you got to help me. And he said, great, no problem. It's going to cost you about $8,000 a month. I said, wait, time out. I don't have that kind of money. Matter of fact, I'm discouraged, I'm distressed, and I'm in debt. So can you help me? And he said, well, we actually have coaches that you can hire. So I did that. I actually hired one of his coaches, and it was about $800 a month at the time. And the very first question he asked me was, Ken, do you have a business plan? So I said, like so many people that I have coached, yes, I do. And he said, well, great, can I see it? And I said, well, not right now. And really the truth was I had a plan in my head, but here was the truth. It wasn't in writing. And so I really didn't have a business plan. So I had to come clean. I go, you know what, let me tell you the truth. I lied to you. I don't have a business plan. I felt stupid. I felt like, you know what, you were going to make fun of me. He goes, you know what, Ken, great. I'm glad you don't have a business plan, because I'll tell you why. You don't need a business plan. What you need is a strategic marketing plan when you first start your business. I thought, wow, God, I'm glad I came clean on this thing. So he's, let me ask you one more question before we do that. Do you know what a strategic marketing plan is? And I said, tell you the truth, at this point, I have no clue what you're talking about. And he goes, great, I'm going to teach you that. Here's why, Ken. Have you ever heard of this principle? If you fail to plan, you plan to fail.
Yeah.
And I said, wow. And I go, you know what? I have heard that. And he goes, well, if you don't have a plan, then you have planned to fail. So what we're going to do is we're going to help you put a plan in writing. And here's the second secret. You ready? The second secret is plan the work, work the plan. I know you're saying, well, wait a minute. I thought you were going to talk about attraction. You know, that's the secret, right? Well, I'm going to get back to plan the work, work the plan. Real quick about this idea of secrets. The reason why is yesterday I was on the telephone with Jim Burt. Now, you might not know that name, or if you follow that mindset, law of attraction, the secret, you've probably heard of him. Who is Jim Burt? Jim Burt is actually the guy that not only was a huge proponent of law of attraction, the secret, but he was the guy that got Tony Robbins started where Tony is today. He mentored and coached him for 5 years. And guess what? Jim used to teach law of attraction. He used to talk about the secret. But I was actually able to go a couple months back and listen to him talk, and guess what he said? I know this is going to probably get people to uncircle me and be a little controversial. He said this, Ken, the secret doesn't work. The law of attraction does not work. Well, I called him yesterday. I said, "Hey Jim, I'm going to be on a hangout. I'm going to talk about you. I'm going to talk about your story. Can I quote you and actually post a link?" And he said, "Of course." And I said, "Can you tell me again why it is that the secret and the law of attraction doesn't work?" And this is what he said. The law of attraction is based on quantum physics. And guess what? When you do the math on quantum physics, the law of attraction doesn't work. So he's actually written a book called Now, and I'm not getting any affiliate money for this. I'm not getting any income from promoting this, but he's written a book called The Law of it's the law of, it's actually on the hashtag, if you go on the hashtag, the law of realization. That's what it is. Sorry about that, Jim, if you're watching. The law of realization. And the reason why he said that is because if you think that you're going to cause money and income and people to come to you by the way that you're thinking wrong. You got to start thinking right. You got to get to the basics. And what are the basics? Secret number one, if it's not in writing, it doesn't exist. Secret number two, plan the work, work the plan. Well, let me just share with you why that was so important and why I am now a huge proponent of that. When I started working with my business coach, we did just that. He helped me to think strategically and helped me with a strategic marketing plan. We planned the work and worked the plan. We set a 1-year goal, a 3-year goal, a 5-year goal, 10, 20, all the way out to 50. And actually to my age 50, which right now I'm 48. So what ended up happening was this. As I was working the plan, what ended up happening, I was starting the third secret. And what the third secret is this. Success is, here it is, the third secret, success is attaining achievable goals. Most of the people don't realize that success doesn't happen overnight. That's what we call fame. Fame is when all of a sudden your business is on 60 Minutes because they just found out that you're doing something wrong or illegal. And guess what? All of a sudden on Sunday night, 60 Minutes, you become famous. No one wants to be really famous like that. What we want to be is successful. And how successful is building on our successes, attaining achievable goals. So my business coach and I took this plan. He helped me rework it so that it was strategically and marketed. We then put out a plan, and here's what happened. I started working the plan. And as I was working the plan, the 3-month plan, the 6-month plan, the 1 year, the 3-year, most people in business never join 5%. What is the 5%? It's the 5% of entrepreneurs that make over $1 million. Well, by working with my coach, having it in writing, working the plan, in my 3rd year, we joined the percent.
The third,
wow.
pardon me?
This stuff really
you
works.
You were cut off, Ken. What was the third?
The third, sorry. In the third year, I joined the 5%, which was actually 2 years prior to what I thought it was going to happen. But because we were constantly working the plan, we were constantly working on new goals and achieving them. And every time I was achieving the goals, I was doing more and more. So I know you're probably saying, well, wait a minute. Design and writing doesn't exist.
What doesn't
plan
exist?
the work and work the plan, setting goals. But I'm not. The last setting achievable goals. So the third secret and the principle that entrepreneurs work on is success is attaining achievable goals, which means you have to start setting goals. You got to have a target goals. That's why I was saying that I needed not a business plan, but a strategic marketing plan. I need to be very strategic about who I was marketing to and working that plan. And as I was working that plan, I was building on my successes. Now, for some people, I say, well, Ken, that's great. But I've got another problem. I've got these great ideas, and no matter what I do, things just don't seem to happen. Well, I'm going to tell you why even using that app that I just talked about could cause you some problems. And here's why. Now, this is something that I struggled with, so I went looking for answers. In Malcolm Gladwell's book, The Blink, now you've probably heard of outliers and tipping point, but
Mm-hmm.
the book, The Blink, he talks about thinking without thinking. Okay. All right. So here we go. I was talking about Malcolm Gladwell in something that he talks about that we have problems with. So what was he talking about? What he was talking about is something called verbal overshadowing. And this is it. Are you ready?
Yes.
We all have had those sparks of inspiration. You know, it's that thing where all of a sudden we got this great idea, and sure enough, when we go and try to capture that idea, we lose it. Most of the time this happens when you sleep at night, right? You're trying to go to sleep and you have this great idea, and sure enough, what happens? You can't remember it. Well, in life and in business, there's something that you can do that can actually help this problem that we all have. And here's the problem. The problem is what we call verbal overshadowing. And here's what it looks like. What it looks like is this, is that when people have a great idea and they can visualize, they can see it, it's in part of your hemisphere that we actually capture images. And the reason why this is so important is because when you're a business owner and you're thinking through processes, what you want to be able to do is you want to be able to capture some of those insights and thoughts. Well, what happens is as soon as you start writing those things down, you will lose them. That's what Malcolm Gladwell talked about in Blink. He talked about verbal overshadowing, and the reason why it's so important in your life is because when you start the process of strategically going through something and marketing or starting up a business idea or even a new concept, you'll lose it because of what happens in your brain, the normal shift. So how do we overcome that? How can success, even though our brains, every time we have these great thoughts, as soon as we go to grab them, they disappear? Well, there's something that we can use, and if you've never used it, this is going to your life. It's called mind mapping. There's actually a YouTube video that I've linked to it, and it's a hashtag #JoinThe5. You can learn how to mind map, and you need to start learning how to mind map. The reason why is because mind map keeps you in that creative hemisphere.
Questions, Joe?
Well, I was going to make some suggestions on the mind mapping stuff since he's not here.
Okay, go ahead.
There's an app for Android called MindJet, MindJet, MindJet for Android. There's also Personal Brain, PersonalBrain.
These are all mobile apps?
MindJet for Android is mobile. I'm not sure about Personal Brain, but I do know that Personal Brain is for a desktop, your laptop.
Okay.
And with the Personal Brain, you can insert links and whatnot to different ideas that you have for whatever it is that you're mapping. That way you can go to a link out on the internet and retrieve information to add to that mind map node. And there is also FreeMind.
FreeMind, okay. So you said you have tried mind mapping before? And
I have, yes, I have tried mind mapping before. I just never really given it a serious try. One of the things that they stress when you're creative writing is to do kind of a mind map thing that, well, they call it cluster writing. And it's basically the same thing. You put a central idea into this wheel hub, if you will, and then you spike it out with different word associations or thoughts stemming from that, and then it acts like this big wheel hub, as it were.
I see. Okay. Yeah, I have never tried mind mapping, but I'll definitely give it a try.
It does help sometimes. It helps keep your thoughts organized a little bit better than just randomly making notes.
Okay.
That's one thing I did find the benefit. So, yeah, I just need to give it a more of a fair shot. It's definitely worth some merit.
Wrap up. It seems like Ken hasn't been able to join us. But basically the three ideas that he talked about was to have a plan, and you need to work the plan, and you have to make sure that the goals that you set is attainable. And also the fact that we cannot really hold information in our heads, only 7 pieces, so it is important that we do it in a mind map, that we write it down. And I think a big part of the role that someone who is a business coach, or a coach in general, and anybody who achieves greatness has always had a coach with them, and they can play a role in helping you have the right thinking and making sure that you work the plan, because it's easy to create. You can create a plan, but sometimes you can just
change it,
not implement it. So, and accountability, and also business coaches have experience with creating a strategic marketing plan. I'm glad that he talked about The Secret, because I've also heard about this secret, but I never bought into it. I quietly always put it aside, and I'm glad that people are finally talking about it and realizing that it's not only the thought that matters, you also have to have the action to accompany it. Anything else?
Regarding The Secret, he was meaning about the book or also the movie, if I'm right? Because I have seen also the movie called The Secret. I have read also the book.
You have read the book?
Yeah, recently in February this year. So not.
What are you thinking about it?
It's interesting. I wrote earlier that some of my friends start to believe in those things which he saw in the movie The Secret. And it was quite interesting to hear him speaking about The Secret. So I was not sure if he was speaking about the same book.
I think it's about the same concept, that if you think about it and if you wish it, it's going to happen automatically. And I think people have reached a goal that it doesn't. So Ken has, if you are watching, Ken promised a 50-minute phone conversation with anyone that would be willing to, well, we were going to announce the criteria, and criteria is to share this video to +1 and share it with your network, and we're going to choose someone randomly. Anything else? Joe, did you want to say anything?
I was gonna put the link to the MindJet for Android in the in the chat area real quick. So give me a chance to do that real quick.
Okay. And I will copy and paste that URL into the comment section of the video. And thank you very much for being with us. Unfortunately, that we had a bandwidth problem, but I think Ken was able to get the message across, the message that he wanted to deliver to us, and hopefully you can also take advantage of the booklet that he shared and the link to the videos. I think he shared quite a lot of amazing and important information. You can search either on Twitter or on G+ for the hashtags join the 5, and not written in words but the letter, or #OpenSM to get access to the ebooks and the video and the booklet. So with that, I thank you for joining us, and I'm going to bring this Hangout to an end. Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank
Bye bye.
you.
Bye.